This will be part 5, as it says right here in the front uh, introduction page, and just keep going. This is the first writer's hidden formats, and they wrote in what they called psalms. These are what truly is the word psalm. This one is a 4-verse psalm, and then they wrote them together to be psalms, and then they would switch. The original text would have shown that, uh, and I don't know when that started, but they developed a 3-verse and a 4-verse, and it would change as the subject would change. This you can see is a comma and a period to make a sentence, and then another one, and this becomes a small paragraph. Then I got another small paragraph, and then you can see how they're connected together, and that's why they're going to have a space between them because it starts all over. This is my last video explaining many of my edits or reasons why I use different words for what I need to have here. Example, I forgot to put a second verse or second major word. As you see, 2 major words are in these that define the verse, and then I'm connecting them with the least amount of small words. Now, sometimes the word so I don't always use as a major word. Same thing with the word that or this. Oh, I think the word this is what, but it's not the word that. Um, and what I did was I forgot to add, so I had to add that. Here's how the 3-verse will look. This is a statement. And then these two are a sentence that define pretty much the statement, depending on the style of the writer. I changed the word saw to knew. I think this was more correct of the intent of the text when it's written out this way. This word would have been, because it's upright word, this would have been something that I'm saying is some of the original text. Each of these would have been original text. When you see metallic, that's been my editing over the original text to come up with the verses like this. He was a king, not just a ruler. See, I changed his name. In my other videos, it took me longer to get through different pages because I had to do a lot of editing. Seems like it's going a little faster in more pages. So I'm on page like 90 and it's going to be like 293. So I almost got through the 1/3 of the text. I've explained the number changes, by the way. So stripped off took. I tried to keep the original word and then I would add to it to say that. My decision now is I can replace that with a better word. Here's text. I'm going to say that the above story is better than this one here. So I'll be removing all this text here. Same thing as this text here. So that will not be in the final product. Ask is to petition. I'm trying to tie the word petition when you were talking to our creator. This is that priest's son who Saul had his father and family killed. He becomes David's priest, and he is going to petition our Creator, and he becomes like a priest and prophet. So, when I when I'm doing the thing for the King's List, these needed to be changed um, from this text. I already knew. Took me like almost 2 years to figure out the King's List that I have. And that was done before this text. So I really trust that and those numbers. And I'm telling you, 2 years and I worked at it weekly. It's very confusing. Because, if you ever see my list, I removed some kings. They just couldn't place them. Couldn't have more stories or couldn't say that there's lost parts. When I did clean up some of the text or start compiling that text together, uh, that was our Creator's hidden formats that I think they're too sophisticated for people to understand those, and this format actually reveals more stories and more text, and I'm thinking it would be more quickly understood and trustworthy of what I've done, but I know those videos are up on the internet, so I have them all archived, transferred, and over, same thing. I'm gonna put notes because this name wasn't here, but this was the only one that they were causing raids back and forth at this time. So I just want trying to help the reader out from time to time that we'll have notes like that. Uh, this was not a very good verse when I'm trying to read it and say this is what needs to be here because I'm bleeding it from a 3 to a 4 verse real quick and then going back to a 3 verse. So I most likely showed where I moved that text before to get to here. Yeah, there's a lot of this that's uh, already been done. Okay, here's more being taken out, and then this will be the text that I'll save from here, and then there's going to be more that's out. This is like already copied and said before or a little later, um, and some small corrections, changing the name, or text is being removed. The order needs It's above text. This is quicker, easier, and better laid out. So there's actually two David's son lists for David's sons, and I'm choosing this one. I decided that this prophet, when I was looking at the timeline, and I'm hoping to put out the prophet's timeline next to him. I think in the earlier times, until the prophets that were there until they're really getting older. Then our Creator would establish another one, trying to overlap them to keep a prophet around. And so this guy's name as a prophet will not be used. It'll be Nathan, who's with David. Um, been with him for a while. Like I said, he had a priest that was there too. So Nathan's come on board here. Nathan, it's a it's within the intent that it needs to be when the story keeps going. Uh, It was, can't remember exactly. Oh, yeah, it's four verse. So it's just that I finally decided to change that word for a better word. You know, s- order of how these cities exist is very important because we still have the, what is it, the ruins, and you can even see it today. Just search it on the internet, and you'll find people having pictures of these cities. The largest one has to be the capital city, okay? So that's why I've had to change the order of the names, and then I changed the order so when you see it on the internet, I just know that that can't be right. Remember, the bad guys were in charge of the text, so they changed a lot of things. So I just know that the text, you wouldn't have a small place as, or a small ruin as the capital city. And then the stories are telling me how the names would then be established. Okay, use the above story again. Guess this would have been something that would have been above that I don't need as well. Eighth, and this becomes the second prophet, and I'm thinking um, I might not be using these uh, in the next. I'll most likely have them there when I do the print, but the object here is I've still got ideas of what I want to do there. There's more text that's going to be taken out, and then you can see here this actually doesn't happen yet. It's mentioned later. So, example, this was from 1 Corinthians 1, chapter 18, part 2. Uh, this was the 3 version side of the story. So move this verse up to here. Uh, so I most likely brought this verse down to this one. Again, just got rid of this. There's more text. Happy to greed. Uh, Shiloh to Hebron. This is, yeah, this was important because I, the way I understood our creator's hidden format, that the building of David's house by the king from Lebanon was questionable in that story. And if I was going to go through and teach it, I'd make sure that that's one of the places in the text that people could argue over whether I've done that right or not. Because I have more text here, and this is more reasonable of the truth here. So when I put this in, I was going by memory of the old book. This one here is above text for this. The word powerful. Things to promise. These things are actually promises for this promise, and not so many that there's these and things with the S. It was this promise that was done, what they're talking about here. The text is telling me what it's supposed to say. Again, I'm going to root this text here, which is quite a bit. Uh, then we have house to tent, and then this is where I removed his house from Shiloh and put a tent by Shiloh at first for him to be closer. Okay, because the story is here. Uh, the thing is that the house is going to be built later. I know it looks like out of order here, but when you read it, it'll make sense. Too many words here, got down to what's needed only here. David summoned, commanded. I think he commanded that because the command is that um, he's going to set up the priests for uh, carrying things for the tent. And I moved this group around. So should have been, that'll be mentioned later, or maybe I went by and missed it already. All to everyone. I think that's pretty easy to understand. In here, here's where I move the text, and they are the highest. Now, I'm starting to use the word highest, and that's because they had um, Levites were known as priests. So if they had a synagogue, I'm thinking they had a priest there that wasn't working in the tent for meeting with him. They would be working at their gathering places. Um, so the thing here is I needed the different word for strictly saying when I'm saying highest priests or higher priests. Those are the ones that are going to be working in the tent or in the house or the house procurator. Yeah, yeah. The story was best. I know I put in 3 lines and I knew that I could come up with something better, and this is, pretty much, and if you well, I don't wanna make sure I'm saying false thing at all, but, um, so I've got this was brought down in the middle of this, that's what it was, that's why it's down here, and then I have to pick up the story. Otherwise, I would have had just missing words. So now that I moved that text here, then I had to come up with a reasonable tying together to go through here again. Um, it's Obed. Some places it's Oran, and other places, so I'm going to use the word Oran instead. So there was 2 different names listed. So here I'm using it as I didn't do anything with it. Here I'm saying it changed to this because here's what it's talking about that he gave the silver for the land for the tent for meeting. Then I had to switch those words around. It just reads better because a lot of times I would think that something like these verses, this was old Hebrew being left around, that they didn't switch the words around when they put it in English, that they just thought that it read okay. Uh, You can see the book of Obadiah was just the only thing I found out of this was actually talking about David's last battle. So that was important that it was prophesied as well, because when you read Obadiah, you would not know that this is about David. So uh, when you see this here with it mentioning Edom, that was I looked for things that would have been closer to stories that were related to Edom because pretty soon they're going to be kind of uh, taken over as Solomon's time. David's going to take them over, and they really didn't establish themselves as a kingdom after that, or at least the text does not reveal that. That wait, it's good. I'm hoping for. Yeah, when the stories are changing, they would change mankind would change it to specifically have words that have double meanings instead of being truthful. So what I decided on which name to use, and I used this name here. I might even shorten it up a little bit. And then not killed, he subdued this guy here, this king, because in the text now, it shows that he took all these things from him but didn't kill him. Like he said, oh, the story is going to read in a psalm that when I came and approached him, they knew who I was and they just gave up. So the thing here is that's what's going on because this king had sent his better army to go fight him. And uh, David and can't think who his captain was at that time. They went and fought both of them, or no, trying to think of his name. Anyways, it was David that fought with them, and they actually sent more down when they lost. They sent more, so most of his army was already left out of the city. So it'll read that. And so here I'm changing this guy's name here. Here's text that's going to be removed. All the stuff that I'm removing, 90% of it is doubles. Then there's places that it just, I couldn't fit it in. It didn't sound right. It was kind of like, it's not information that's needed. Um, so he took the word fence out of here and put it here. So I rearranged this verse to get to this, to make it sensible when read. Here I'm going to move some text, but a lot of the text I'm not going to use. Same thing here because these are 8 point. 8 point I'm getting rid of or moving. This means I'm going to get rid of it completely. This 8 point will be that I'm going to move it someplace. Again, changing names here. These are David's sons. So this is when David makes his guy that his father and family was killed off, that now that this other priest that David had signed as the highest priest above, or he's now going to assign him to as a higher priest, not the highest priest, but he's going to assign him now as a higher priest. Joab was the one that I was thinking about here that fought Edom. So Sheba is the new name for her. This is just me trying to make sure that there's mankind is kicked out of the text as much as possible. Um, okay. Yeah, I forgot to shorten it up here. So I needed a third here, so it would have been the guard that would announce. This was in David when he was lying in his bed, getting sicker and sicker. So David died of old age. He needed a place, not his name. This would be done at the gates. Nothing is done on the inside. Here's the highest priest. So saying I have him shout it because the story is that his son who's putting on like a banquet or kind of announcing that he's going to be a king. He did it on his own, which was wrong. So they had to hear some of this stuff. And to me, it would only make sense that how do you cite the other people after you hear the trumpet sound or the horn blow? That you would say, what's going on? And then you would hear this people, and then they would spread it as news. This is the news that's been said. Um, Again, name change. Just trying to make it easier for everybody to read. This is tied to the first part up there that needed to be changed. They all went after him. They all followed after him is more precise of a word. No, name changes again had to be kept throughout the text here. I still don't have words for here and here. And then you can see I'm removing here. Is anything difficult there to understand what I did? Again, helps I read text. The prophet priest to this priest, because I did it above, and I wanted to make sure that he was also known as a prophet, because our creator, or this is the guy that walked around with David when his father was killed, and David was asking him to ask our creator, and our creator would talk to him. So outside of the tent for meeting, so that's very important to establish that he is a prophet. It shows up. So so this text is better down below. You can see I'm pretty sure this is one that I added more to where it says better or the same below. Justice is changed to knowledge. It's what the judge needs in his head, not that the judge can pass out justice, but it's the knowledge and the wisdom that these verses have got to be connected together to make this continue to be saying the same thing without changing the subject in this grouping. Served, I said there's subjects now to Solomon, uh, because they really just didn't serve. They had to be directly tied to the king. Uh, uh, I guess it's a better word as well. I'm used to that word. I want to get rid of the word laborers to mean workers. Laborers are too modern of a word. It wasn't a place, it was a river. And this is where you direct me, where you told me. They're going to send down the trees from Lebanon through the Mediterranean and then up this river that runs right up next to Jerusalem. So what they would probably have is these dragged up because the water's coming down, that they would have to have like um, donkeys or even ox pull these things up closer, or they would break them up, and then they were only putting them together by 2 or 3 logs and then bringing them up. But it's like, I think, 4 miles to get to Jerusalem from maybe a little bit more because the river is not going to be straight. That story was better above. They leveled a hill. These weren't mounts. Sometimes Uh, I'm trying to use the mount, like what's above them, where Jordan's like 4,000 feet above. When they look over, they see this great big wall going up, and uh, over time, they broke down to where that surface up there is higher. So that's going to be the mount, because even that, they're higher than the land going into Saudi Arabia today. So there's like three mounts that are up there, but on the hills in Israel, they weren't just all just a hill to a peak. They could have had this, you know, long area that you can't call it a peak, that you could call it a mount. And here I just wanted to make sure that I'm using the hill that they used was leveled off. It had to be leveled off because the size of the area that's needed. Screw up here or move. So this is from way down below. Yeah. So it's got to be, here it goes right here. That's just out or doubly said pretty much. Put that text in there. Bleeding this is together. This is being moved. I don't know where this text, because see how I got a double space here. Well, that means I found better that it connects with text that goes above it. Let me see here. Yeah, see how I got a double space. So this group here, a three verse, will tie with this three verse. It's moving the word back and forth. Foundation. It was the courtyard of this house. Uh, it's laid in the ground. So it couldn't have been. Now, the foundation, because it's granite blocks, most likely would have been granite underneath it. But it was all flattened out with, it had to be, what would I say, limestone cut out, and that would have been there. So it's kind of like having to understand that the house is made of granite. It can't sit on limestone, but I'm trying to put into this verse that this whole area has all been put together. So that's why I said the courtyard of his house, which means even for the house to be built on. And having that understanding of the weight, it would have been of two. I don't know uh, what they've got actually in Jerusalem there. I didn't. I'm just going by what the text is telling me, and that might be corrected when somebody says, "Well, if you're trying to update it, we know this is what it is." So, but these here, yeah, tops, I turned to capital because they really weren't tops. I want them to know that they're capitals. Oh, just getting rid of this, even though I moved that up, needed where they were casting them, but it needed to be someplace other than here. In fact, some of this might have been like a note in the text, because I've used too many pieces from too many books, and so I know there when it was in order, then they would have been able to come back and said, well, we can add. Notes for the week. The one who's teaching, made, was finished. Better Here's where I had to make sure that you understand that the limestone blocks were used. It wasn't his passing over, it was the celebration that they're talking about. Yeah. To, to, in four, I think what happened was this was a 3 verse, and I had to make it in 4 verse. When I seen I made an error by only making it a 3 verse, that's why I had to add a word here and add the word here. I believe that's what maybe my memory's not so good here. So I should mention that, uh, just because I'm not remembering everything that much. Wait, to worship, not bowed. Uh, Again, removing text. Again, text. I know the stories again. So is this. This was insert to above to make that story better up there. And that's where I changed that word. Uh, so out of all this, that was the only part that I needed. So I moved it. And that was just comparing back and forth, whether I can put more of it in or is it being said, or because it could be saying the same thing only differently. I just decided to go with the one that was what I felt was the better of the group, 2 groups. I think this has already been done. I took this story out because better story was above, because it's got too many things. It's got like this here was brought from all the other kings. Well, that says the same thing. So it was easier to do that. And then like this is the same thing that they came to give him gold. So that was just a double of doubles. Join, live with you. I think that's the better word, not join, but live. And this name had to be added correctly. I'm pretty sure I had like a blank space here. And like I said, didn't know which name to use until then. So it took a long time to put it together, read it. Like, okay, that's pretty good order. Then when I reread it, because when I moved, then the other things changed. Uh, Servants to guards. They wouldn't add servants to do this. They would add guards uh, to take his son to Egypt. The adversary is the enemy. The leader for Aram was actually a king for Aram. It has been reestablished that even, like I said, the king was in Damascus. Um, they've kind of, I think they've starting to speak in falseness there. Can't do that. Yeah, it's went to Damascus, and Aram was still there. Okay, they're the people named after a guy who was king that named his place after him. Uh, there's his nation after him. Got rid of this text. Well, I've got the hiccups, so I've got to cut this off. So what I'll do is I'll pick it up here. Sorry about that.